CRX, the MR2, the Miata, and the 2017 Mustang GT, my least favorite. I wouldn't say any of them are horrible. Like the CRX HF, legit, I could get 50, 60 miles a gallon, but dang, that sucker was slow. Fun car, little, easy to park, just never gonna satisfy that speed urge. That's more of a just grocery getter. MR2 had nothing but problems. I know they're not all like that, but I got a bad taste in my mouth for turbo cars because of that. Never get the damn thing to work right. I just may not be smart enough, I don't know. But I've heard a lot of people have nothing but problems with turbos, so I'm a naturally aspirated guy. The NB Miata, quick, nimble, but that's it. That car sucked in every other regard. I hated the short shifter. There's no space anywhere. For the gas mileage that you got, which was like 20 maybe, you did not get any speed out of that. The engine is terrible, honestly. Just even if you matted two of them together, you're talking about maybe 280 horsepower. It'd be an awful V8. Yeah, just not a very fun car. Good at turning, that's about it, but no, not fun. And then the 2017 Mustang GT had more power than any car that I'm gonna mention. The fastest car, and probably had the most potential around a racetrack, but I could never fall in love with that car. It was a new car, and I knew in the back of my head, like, if anything went wrong, thousands of dollars. Even for like a broken tail light, thousands of dollars possibly. I did not have the skills or money to repair anything that went wrong with that car. I couldn't just go take it to my buddy's shop or something like that. I would have to take it to the dealership where I would let them rip me off, as how it is like with all new cars. It had way too many dummy features, man. Like I couldn't get close to a car in front of me, otherwise it would start beeping at me. I couldn't leave my door open. I couldn't leave a light on. I couldn't, like, there's so many things that it would do to prevent you from making mistakes. I just don't like stuff like that. It's an insult to our intelligence. I never fell in love with it. The visibility is awful, just like with all new cars. Like on this car, the window starts here. On that car, it starts like up here. So you just like, it's like you're in a tank. You can't see out of it. So you go slower, even though you can go faster, because you don't know where you're at on the road. So yeah, those would be the bottom tier. And then in the middle tier, I liked the Supra-Celica. It's a great looking car. You don't ever see them anywhere. And that inline 6 was beautiful. It had very little power, even for its day. But it was a Toyota, so an inline 6 Toyota, naturally aspirated, that sucker was so smooth. It had torque, and just the way that it delivered the power that it did have was just hard to put to words. You gotta really drive something like that to appreciate it. And then the 5-speed, I hear people complain about the Toyota 5-speeds having a lot of slop and whatnot, but I don't know, maybe I got a good one, and I loved the shifting in that car, matted to the perfect smoothness and idle of that inline 6. Like, you could rev that thing with a glass of wine on top and it wouldn't spill. It's perfectly balanced. And then the 2001 Camaro SS, that LS1 T56 combo is hard to beat, man. That's probably my favorite car ever on the highway, because you could do 85 at less than 2,000 RPM and get 30 miles to the gallon. The power is great. Even though it didn't have as much power as that 2017 Mustang GT, it sure did feel like it. And it may have actually been a little bit faster, because it probably weighed like 500 pounds less than that Mustang. Modern cars just keep putting on more and more weight. And then in that middle tier, I would put that 2006 Mustang GT. It didn't have a lot of power. Probably 50 less than that LS1. Probably a little more than the 94 Trans Am, but it's just a real standard car. Like, it's the basis that everyone measures their car to. Like, can it beat a 2005 to 2009 Mustang? I feel, because it had just a solid 300 horsepower engine. Wasn't particularly great at anything. Had all the modern dummy sensors and traction control, none of that stuff. I mean, it had traction control, but it wasn't necessary. You could always turn it off, and it wasn't sophisticated. So I mean, just a solid all-around average car, pretty fun, not terribly slow, and you could really kind of make it move if you knew what you were doing. And I appreciated that about it, and pretty reliable too. And then in the top tier, I would definitely say it'd be my Javelin, the 73 Javelin. Had nothing but problems with that car, but man, when it worked, God, it was so fun to drive. I got a special place in my heart for older cars. The simplicity, how easy they are to work on. The feedback that you get from the road, it's all mechanical, it's all analog. It's the same thing with this car, but it's even more all mechanical. There's no fuel injection, very little electronics. I love all that stuff. That was my Mad Max car. Like, if there was an EMP that knocked out all the electronics in the world, I'd go take that car out, whereas everyone else's car would be fried and not being able to drive. I'd be out there in the Javelin because it was carbureted. And then yeah, in that same tier, I can't really pick between the two. Would be this car, this 92 Trans Am. It's as old as I am. It's got that perfect balance of, I guess, modern amenities with old school tech. There's no anti-lock brakes. There's one airbag. The visibility is not compromised in any way for safety. You get supreme confidence by looking out the window. You know exactly where the car is at on the road. It's all mechanical or hydraulic or just not digital anywhere yet. It's all analog. And then you got the reliability of fuel injection. You don't have to go out there and tune it, based on the humidity or air pressure for the day or whatever. It's fuel injected. You just turn it on, it's going to go. But it's not direct injection, so you're not going to, make your air intake valves dirty or something like that. As long as you take care of this car, it'll go. I mean, hundreds of thousands of miles, fairly reliable. And then for both of them, this car and the Javelin, the parts are so cheap, they're readily available. As long as it's not something real specific, like a spoiler or something like that, you can go to AutoZone and get the alternator or the water pump. It's all there, and they're relatively cheap. It's not like a BMW where you're gonna get scammed up the butt for a Vanos pipe or something crazy like that for $800. I bought a freaking door in my 86 Trans Am for $5 from the junkyard. So I love that about these cars. As the market changes, as people start to realize that they can't own new cars very long because the repair costs are worth more than the cars themselves, and it's going to drive up the cost of used cars, particularly cars that are over about 15 years old. So those 2006 Mustangs all the way to 2009, those are probably the last of the cars that I'm talking about that are going to go up in price. Everything after that, there's a gray area, of course, but with the new stuff today, you can't own those cars forever like you can older cars like these. You just maintain these, they'll go forever, and they'll keep appreciating in value as people want